Hey everybody, I'm gonna be doing a speedrun in Game 1 today. Game 1 is created by a game designing AI, Begelina. I signed up for Begelina to track my metadata. So every time I posted something on Twitter or Instagram, or when I browse a website, or typed something in a search engine, or when I bought something from Gmarket, and for practically everything I did this year, I got pretty excited about how it would turn out as a game at the end of the year. So I received it last week. The gameplay is mainly based on Mirror's Edge, which was released in 2008, but you can switch the gameplay mode to different games. The contents are kinda weird, but the game itself is pretty good. I beat the game about 8 times until now. I'm gonna try to break my record today.
Video games inherently share the same matrix on which the internet and personal computers were initially conceived. The resemblance provides stability to the users while inducing them to broaden their experience of the latest technology. By progressively breeding opportunities to experience the futuristic reality at which digital technology has pursued, video games have
below, I can turn on the subtitles. It's kind of distracting.
Game reality in the past was an isolated environment. Today, it is now superimposed in the real world. The game industry is accelerating towards the next step, through the comprehensive appliance of procedural generation, crowdsourcing AI, and VR, AR, MR, and user-friendly open-world gaming environment is about to unfold. Video games in the mid-2000s tend to show a decline in the novelty of its product compared to the outcomes of the previous high-speed growth era. PlayStation 2 has been in the long run for 12 years, and online games have pursued the eternity for everyday life. The player clearly understands that a game is limited in some parts and accepts it naturally. Experienced gamers can feel the approximate limits of what a regular game consists of. It is rather unlikely for a player to encounter a game and be truly surprised by something that it contains. Nowadays, however, video games have yet started to become an immersive environment, thoroughly prepared to bring us back to our childhood. The child, imagining the future, delays the present. It's been a long time since the birth of video games, from amusement arcades to home console, from desktop computers to the smartphones that fit in our hands. The industry has expanded, and today the phrase playing games makes us think of playing video games. So many games, so many consoles and peripherals. What could be the single common thread that penetrates the history of video games? For one answer, it can be said that the history of video games has always changed in relation with the inability sensation. Originating from a computer, video games starts off on a flat surface inside the monitor. The control limitations of the earlier hardwares have contributed to the noticing of the inability sensation, which accompanied the joyful features inside this black surface. The process of solving a disability led to finding another, which in turn continued on the discovery of a new solution. At first, the inability sensation was considered to be caused from the other side of the screen. The small avatars inside the monitor did not follow as directly as moving one's own physical body. Peripherals were released to solve or supplement the inability sensation and to circumvent the unexplored areas. All of today's familiar gameplays have been previously introduced in the earlier games, such as multiplayer via the network, shooting with electronic guns, video driving with racing wheels, motorcycle racing with hydraulic motion control, simulation chairs, and gesture-based controllers with sensors, etc. Although the possibilities of those earlier products were endless, the resulting devices seemed somewhat desynchronized with the time of its arrival due to insufficiency in its development acceleration. As one of those devices, Nintendo's RAW, Robotic Operating Buddy, is an interesting example that fits the case. The family computer, initially released in 1983 by Nintendo Japan, entered the North American market in 1985. The North American market at the time had widespread doubts about video game consoles due to the previous Atari shock. Responding to this, Nintendo had to show that a video game console could be more than what it was back then. And so for its 1985 launch, Nintendo remodels the appearance of the Famicom to
like some kind of listening test, right?
and also changes its name to
not bad for a speedrun, though.
Nintendo Entertainment System. Nintendo extensively advertised its deluxe set during the launch, which included a small peripheral device, a robotic rod that interacts with the player's computer. The robot, recognizing the player's gameplay through the CRT monitor, responded with simple actions, such as moving gyro around with its hand. By demonstrating an integration with the latest technologies, Nintendo has widened the perspective towards the video game consoles, which was once conceived as for mere entertainment. The marketing strategy, which implied that the avatar of the screen was actually a kind of robot, achieved a huge success. Over the early 90s, the popularization of home consoles, such as the Famicom or the Sega Master System, has developed an outstanding rate. The proliferation of home consoles at the time had started to change the appearance of everyday life. Home consoles were even favored to the married working couples in South Korea by the fact that it was considered safer for the kids to stay home and play video games rather than playing outside. Though there were negative preconceptions that video games as an idle pursuit and also a systematic misjudgment that decided that video games were illegal, Samsung and other major corporations of South Korea circumvented that these issues by promoting video games as educational. It seems that, to them, it was fortunate that game consoles were actually a computer. Video games in the 1990s have developed at a phenomenal pace by considering the inability sensation, which was coming from the black screen inside the monitor, as a sort of condition. Various approaches have been attempted which
You have to change the mode when you enter this area. It's easier. It's pretty confusing here with the default mode
vision of the
because the space is
Nintendo
all
Entertainment
disconnected.
System,
It's actually
NES,
kind
has
of
been
fun to play
realized in
like
an
that,
unexpected
but we're doing a speedrun,
We
so
control avatars in the monitor,
go.
and the avatars are truly
doing kind of
connected with
Mirage.
ourselves. Maybe we could say that we became a ROB or maybe a bot. Or maybe we're trapped inside a certain game that limits humans to a robot rather than actually transforming us
connected
into
to someone
one.
else
The domain
right
that
before you die.
surrounded and directed us started to
off,
twist
Dobuita.
around another
It
dimension,
looks like kind of a
eventually
spectator mode,
connecting
right?
with it.
Not that easy,
Was
though.
it really an
The tricky
avatar
part
the
is that
player
you
was
have to be
controlling
careful
in
while
the first
switching your
place?
connection,
Yet
'cause you
when
might
I
get
think of
disconnected.
ROB, which
You
followed
have
the
to sneak
movements
in.
of my avatar inside a CRT screen, I suppose that the avatar could have been a
Hyun?
pixelated robot. The player
Found you.
steering the robot inside the black screen confirms
Fuck
the
off,
boarding
Puppy
through
Joe.
the controlling sensation, through the
almost
hit
died.
response, and through the dynamic sound effects. The vision of
Sniper.
FPS games today is all about achieving the
off, Nick, it's
sensation
not-
of absolute
That was
unity
Hyun
through
over there, right?
persistent endeavors.
Hyun.
Now we can ride the objects we once only looked at through simple control functions. But through this, what exactly are we trying to be? Looking back at the online games of South Korea in the 2000s, many video game companies were competitively obsessed with depicting realistic characters inside a medieval fantasy world. In the past, the
Where's
only way
everybody?
RPG games connected the player with the character was by
shit.
letting them name their own hero. Nowadays, the online game character customization itself has become an individual game. Even today, someone is logging into the subject that was once merely gazed upon with desire via Skyrim
shit.
mods, the plastic surgery perfect character modeling interface of Black
switch
Desert
connection failure
Online.
in this mode is famous
Disreputable
falling to the
K-pop
ground at the
girl
Mirror's
group
Edge mode.
character skin features of Sudden-Attack 1. Or they say that they want to. What do you think it feels like desiring to be something else? Or maybe it means that they want to be the target of someone's gaze. The robot on the screen recognizes the line of sight the player is projecting, then suddenly accepts the player inside its body. The player states the player's desire to go inside the image and look with its eyes the image which once the player's gaze was projected upon. The inside of the skin, reflecting the light with moisture, is the opposite surface of the outside skin. On the opposite surface, the concave part is convex, and the convex part is concave. And the same light as the outside light is turned on in the inside as well. Occasionally, the perspective is toggled back and forth from third-person view to look at the avatars, to first-person view to play the game. What is that strange feeling during the switch? Have you ever turned around right after you boarded your avatar to look behind your back? Could you see that
Mick
you
is
weren't
now,
there? Perhaps
Yeah,
our
well, this is
true
far
urge
enough.
was to log
I'm
into
turning back
ourselves.
now.
Who were we trying to fight exactly? While placing ourselves inside the reversed viewpoint of the opposite surface. Who was standing outside the
the space
player's
connectivity
gaze?
here is
The
total
person
mess.
standing there is the player
All you have to do is
themselves,
just following him now.
extremely hating themselves while feeling their self-love overbrimming when looking at themselves and looks at no other than themselves. Have you seen the floor on the inside the skin? The floor is a metallic tegoot that rotates quietly. Maybe the user themselves have been practicing to be a robot or have longed to be a one for a long time. Did you see the video on the timeline feed? The one with the two-headed lizard, of which two heads start to fight and ends with one head eating the other one up? And after a few moments, did you see how an empty slot was regenerated in the place where the devoured head once was? Within the reversed viewpoint, could you see yourself on the other side of the monitor glass? Could you find your face in the 360-degree captured world? How do you suppose we can get inside? CES 2016 video clip. Participants are instantly scanned in 3D and are made into Fallout 4 characters. Perhaps we, ourselves, need to become enough data.
Do you know what makes TWICE so fascinating? It's because they are so flawlessly perfect. You know, there's this video that went viral at the time where somebody edited 20 of their performance clips into one. Have you seen it? It was made by connecting concert videos shot at different times. But because the dance movements were so identical,
this part is all about timing. You're gonna see a sign coming up soon.
The angle of their necks. Nowadays, we can just download the motions and bring it to the body. But at that time, it wasn't the case. TWICE had a degree of perfection that is hard to capture in the first place. Way better than
when you see the sign, you have to grab it and jump off the train.
Perfect.
If you miss timing, you have to start all over
The app's
again.
main feature was the live streaming of K-pop celebrities' everyday lives. K-pop stars broadcasted scenes from their daily routine that were not covered in any other show. It was as though they sent everything forward, minimizing what they left behind their backs. It already started at this point. If you were a robot, you had to act like one. So you're saying that you're observing the data circulating among each other inside the passage. Can't you see which one's faster? Have you heard about the other K-pop girl group Girlfriend? Did you see the video of the performance that took place in the Sudden Attack 2 championship finals? You see, data are circulating among each other. It's only us who are turning our heads watching here from there.
I'm not trying to be something like you.
This is the frustrating thing about
I
this
have
place.
no intentions
When
to
you get
become
close to the
something that
sign,
resembles
these
you.
things pop up randomly. It's obvious that they're trying to mess
I'm
up your
not trying to
timing.
be something like you.
I have no intentions to become something that resembles you.
You're not assuming that the fans of Sudden Attack 2 and fans of Girlfriend are the same, are you? It's better to give a pro pic for every sense you find in your inner self. It's easy. All you have to do is just create a name and a profile picture for each one. It's easy. Just remember that it's important to make a specific slot for each one. Just chat around a bit at first, and then when the AI gives you a slot, give the slot a name and a pro pic to match it. And then you can either fill the slots yourself, one by one, or just leave about half of it alone so they can just self-learn themselves by chatting around. Creating a slot is the first step. Once they get a little used to it, anyone can continue expanding from then on easily. By isolating each one and giving them a little time difference, anyone can feel the sensation. It could be a little confusing at first, but everyone tends to get acclimated eventually. You know how an FPS game is like, right? It's something like that. It's that feeling of this button to this function, that button to that.
Ah, did you
Use
see that?
feeling to
That was
rate
so
each of your
close.
many reflections. You are definitely not one and only. I mean, you've never been. It doesn't mean that you have to copy every data of yourself and share it with others. So can't you see why TWICE is so perfect? Anyone can have TWICE's motions, cut their image files and use them, but that's not the point. You have to bring everything forward until it's completely empty. You can't patronize them for being young. Do you know how many hours they spend in their work? They don't sleep. They commit themselves in a workout routine that exceeds a military soldier. They connect to the V Live constantly to convert their time into data, time such as working out to build a perfect body, and even during the shortest break times. That's not something anyone can do. Do you know why they put in so much effort to build a perfect body? The only thing one can truly change is oneself. And the important things, the real ones, are in the inner self. Everything you seek is hiding deeply inside yourself. Everything else must be sent out until it shows. Once it is revealed and once it's felt, anyone can sincerely change. Just focus on the front, so the empty slots can be created behind you one by one. Just leave the empty slots fill up with each other at their independent time, and then you can hear the sound. You start to feel it clearly. The next step is to maintain that sound and try not to lose it, filling up everything you find with the sound. And then you will know. The world is infinite, and everything is linked with a hyperlink. It's my opinion that this should be realized in a very early age. There are so many hyperlinks that have been lost, losing their chance to become a slot. Every one of these things is me, consisting myself, having conversation with myself. yourself, though it comes back later once you miss it, but who knows when. You know what? I'm dating myself, who I found inside myself. I'm aware that it's hard to maintain the initial intentions while dating, but we're closer than anyone right now. I'm sad that we don't spend enough time together. I don't consider myself as the original, nor consider myself dating a fake me. I'm also just a sloth. My real self has always been over there and inside for a long time, waiting quietly for everything to be sent out and become empty sloths. You have to clear everything away completely to feel its existence. You'll probably not know how it feels like if you don't try it yourself. So you've always been there, watching. You've always been there, inside an endless dim place.
Stupid games. They keep on making these stupid games. Yeah, I'm telling you, they keep on making the same stupid games. And so, on an unexpected day, I dreamt of wandering through the dungeons to slay the human butcher. I dodged the floors blazing with flame, rehearsed my movements to complete everything perfectly, and execute my moves with no vulnerability. You know how in dreams, the environment always changes without any notice. Suddenly, I was surrounded with a massive cluster of witch doctors, jumbled close together into a wall. They were circulating around in haste. I tried to touch the wall, but even though I got close enough, I could only see my walking motion sequence continuing. And then I woke up shuddering. That day I found you in my closet. Many of them, you, in plastic boxes. I couldn't believe that I had forgotten you. As I cheered in delight, you were born in 1984. Sound of an infant child crying, I'm the only person that knows you better than yourself. Your parents divorced in 1991, and your photographs do not exist since this point until college, when you hold your first digital camera. It's such a shame how there are no photos left of yourself holding those video game cartridges and consoles. To think about how you lost all your memory cards, it's so much of shame that it feels like my own loss. You are my seed.
You know why I keep
Your
running
first
like this?
video
That's
game
stopping.
experience takes place in 1986 when you play the game
get out of here.
Antarctic
The future,
Adventure
the
for the
past,
first
doesn't
time.
matter.
You encounter millions of new
Actually,
games
prefer
from
the
then on
future.
and eventually
Anyway.
gets to go inside one. You play Eye of the Beholder for the first time in the year 2015 when you're 32 years old. But actually, I think it will be better if you start this game right after the phase of playing simple games such as Antarctic Adventure. Yeah, let's try this again. You receive a Samsung Aladdin educational computer as a present in 1991 and play Eye of the Beholder by running it through DOS. You are an adventurer, descending
You don't need to
beneath the
waste time
underground
shooting at
sewers of
everything.
the great
I'm
city
only
of
killing the golden
Waterdeep
ones.
to defeat the
Keep that
demons
in your
sitting
head.
there waiting.
You're at your target
While
and keep
the
running.
drones follow you with aerial recording, you leave the castle and arrive at the sewer entrance. The beholder realizes your position and tears down the entrance. There's no going back now, and the only way left is to defeat the beholder. The beholder's demonic magic has turned the sewers into a labyrinth, and for the first time in your life, you enter a dungeon. The dungeon is a rectangular passage that fits to your body. You always encounter monsters from the front. The experience you gain this day is important because there are distinct advantages of experiencing Eye of the Beholder as your first dungeon. Eye of the Beholder's dungeons teach you the proportions between you and the dungeon. The dungeon proportions are always sized to fit you, and its difficulty settings are set so that it matches your scale. The monsters always appear on the front, and even when you find their backs or their unprotected sides of them, you always have to face them on the front again to fight. You are always certain that you are experiencing something, but eventually, the only thing that becomes clear is the fact that you can't remember clearly. You face your monsters by the front but always wonder where they came from. Or you find out that you don't have enough time to look around, or find out that the hyperlink is broken. You get to play so many games. In 1995, you play Chrono Trigger. You look down on a small country through Google Maps, where the Millennial Fair, a celebration of the millennium since the founding of the kingdom, is being held in a public square. You are there. During the festival, the demonstration of a teleportation device, invented by your childhood friend Luca, goes awry and sends the princess, Maro, lost in time. You take off on a journey to rescue the princess. You travel to the future and stumble into the disasters that the future holds. Lavos, a monster that once flew through ocean of stars, has came to dwell deep inside your planet a long time ago, and has siphoned the energy of the living to gain his perfect form, and comes out to the surface to devastate the world. When the day of Lavos comes forward, the weak perish like worms. Lavos links all of the planet's space-time with time gates, and intends to destroy them all at once. You and your companions, who exist between the gaps of space-time, have no other way but to defeat Lavos. You may have to fly into the future to fight immediately, but as you travel in time, you meet your companions, you meet people, and you get to love the time that changed through those encounters. Though all time has been devoured by Lavos, you stumble through space-time, converting every past and future into real time, and you grow up. At the end of time, where humans are extinct, you meet Prometheus, the robot who collects human information. You travel back to the year 1999, defeat the monster Lavos together, and returns back to the present time. In 1996, you play the third title of the Dragon Quest series for the first time, looking down a cliff. As you watch the waterfall shining with dawnlight, you enter your name, gender, and birth date for the first time. You hear the voice of the ruler of everything, and you are asked to answer him honestly. Are you embarrassed by others' praise? Do you worry about what others think of the way you dress? If your opinion differs from someone else's, would you rather not argue about it? Do you often think about the past? If you could be reborn, would you like to be reborn as a prince or princess? If you hold to a dream for a long time, will it eventually come true? You answer all these questions, and then you are assigned a personality. So it's important to read the questions slowly. You choose your answers carefully by pressing yes and no. You train yourself to find out the conclusion of the questions, not the true meanings of it. By playing it repetitively, you will be ready to produce different results every time, through any personalization algorithm. At the end of 1999, you play an open-world game, Shenmue, which is set on Yokosuka. Your father is killed in front of you on your 18th birthday, and you decide to revenge. You notice that the size of the buildings and objects, and even the positioning of the people are accurately scaled to match Yokosuka's size, just like how everything in Japan is a bit smaller than those of South Korea, and so how it seems more precisely tailored. In Yokosuka, everything is set to be ready for you. You meet a lot of people in the streets, shops, and vacant lots. You track the secrets surrounding your father. You begin to imagine your city in which you live, as Shenmue, as a virtual sandbox. The best game is the best localizing your city, your mother tongue, and your You know what? In 2008, long after 1995, I met Robo again. It has been 400 years since we talked. Robo told me the time gate was not open because of Lavos, but because of the human desire of changing certain events in the past. I didn't know that. See, you'll never have children, because your child couldn't accelerate enough and has been desynchronized from the flow of time. To tell the truth, I knew all along. everyone's a substitute of someone else, while knowing absolutely nothing about their own self, because you don't have to be yourself while you're on behalf of someone else. I knew it. See? It showed up in your dreams after all. It's actually
the
quite
hyperlinks is
easy for a
connected.
person to be sincere about someone else. If it's not in another person, any account is fine, or even a robot. In a way, sometimes I'd even feel thankful for the fact that everybody is pretending in a certain amount, like those late-night shoulder bumpings with drunk people on the street, like how something is influenced reasonably after a change in environment, like how I don't change even though I always knew, like how I constantly migrate to different video games. After all, do you have anything better to wait for than the future? All you have to do is just let it flow. Like when you were a child. After all, you're supposed to change this current time at the very end, updating it while moving back and forth between past and future. And at the end, you can just change this present time, and then you can live in that body exactly the way you played the game. And then you will be covered up and surrounded by its environment, and then the hyperlink will be completely broken. Well, I think so, or not. Anyway, you can wait till it's time to run. Remember to dump all your skill points into dexterity.
The score's not that bad. You know what? I ran all this way. And I'm still running. And at some point, I have to think that I ran to be truly free and out of this place. But how are you supposed to think that you ran while you're still running? Anyway, new record. Victory!